Hi, I'm Cache Valley Prepper, and this video is another in the series on pocket survival kits. And this one is about security. And we'll talk about security, situational awareness, and escape. So, first thing you think about when you think about security is self-defense. And normally, when you think about self-defense, you think about firearms. And I'm sure most of you carry firearms elsewhere in your survival self-recovery core layer other than your pocket survival kit. So you probably also carry other self-defense related gear like magazines and a light and a knife and things that we can't fit in a pocket survival kit, but we can fit a backup knife. And here I have the snap card knife from Tops, designed by Norseman, which is, I've showed in other parts of pockets, talking about other portions of the rule of threes and survival needs as they relate to pocket survival kits. But this knife is probably one of the better things for self-defense that you could pack into a small kit. It's not going to get knocked out of your hand, and I think it would be a pretty effective backup weapon. You might have to modify. You might not always be able to carry sharp objects, like if you're going to travel by air, but when you don't, it's a good option. I also carry, I like to include when I can, a way to keep it sharp, and this is just a diamond sharpener from a Fall Niven sharpener that's been removed from the plastic. It makes a pretty good sharpener to touch up the blade. You can get double-sided diamond sharpeners, which would give you a little more capability. I am experimenting with cutting one down to size for a pocket survival kit, but when I do that, maybe we'll show that. Another aspect of security is identity, friend or foe. You want to prevent fratricide, and you want the good guys to be able to tell you from the bad guys, and people who's on your side be able to tell you are on their side. So one way to do that is an IFF patch that our forces use. Another way is you can wear a flag patch from your nation to help identify you. This one happens to be an IR flag patch. Or you could carry something like a flag from your country, like a bandana, in your pocket elsewhere, not in maybe in your pocket survival kit, but elsewhere in your survival self-recovery core layer in your pockets. Moving on from defense, we have situational awareness and escape. And light, as I've mentioned before, is an important aspect of situational awareness. If you lose the ability to see, it's really hard to be aware. Another aspect of self-awareness, if you wear eyeglasses and you're dependent on eyeglasses, you might have the ability to repair your eyeglasses in your pocket survival kit, you probably already have some things in there you could use to do that, such as thread and wire and tape, either medical tape or moleskin or 100-mile-an-hour tape. But the screws, if you just lose a screw from your eyeglasses, it's very simple. You know, they're tiny little screws, easy to include in a pocket survival kit. Also a screwdriver. This one is just from the Leatherman bit set, and it has a flat head on one side and a Phillips on the other. And I've used it not only to repair eyeglasses, but also to dry out a key fob for a vehicle that went for an unexpected swim in the ocean in Brazil, so it can come in handy. You can also set up trip lines around your perimeter. When you stop, you know, if you're in a hole-up area, that can be a big help. If you have your go bag, you could attach those to trip traps. And when I move up to the next level, the next layer of survival kits, I'll talk about some things you can carry, but you can rig that with rocks and cans, or you could use some cordage to make a flapper on a can, or there are quite a few different ways to rig trip line to let you know somebody's in the area. Also, your counter tracking skills play heavily on that, to the effectiveness of that. You could also set up snag lines using the trip line. This is 85-pound Kevlar trip line, which is very inelastic. So snag line is basically when you take a fish hook and like this treble hook here, and suspend it from the branch of a tree or a doorway. You want to put snag lines in funnels or corridors or choke points, things like trails or next to cover, or hang them from trees where people will pass by or take cover. In a pocket survival kit, you might not carry great big treble hooks like this. These are some that have been camouflaged for use as snag lines. It's kind of a narco trafficker technique that's used to protect drug grows sometimes. Somebody walking by will get snagged by the fish hook, and depending on what's on the fish hook, it can cause infection, and it can make noise and slow them down. But as an option to these treble hooks that don't pack so well, these are double hooks, and you'll see these a lot on kind of frog type baits, or you can just buy them. I'd use a little larger size than this, but you can smash them flat so they'll pack really well in a pocket survival kit, and I just get them in a little larger size like this. But you could use those both for fishing, and if you had to, for snag line. Of course, your standard fish hooks would work as well, but the more barbs and hooks you have hanging down, the more effective a snag line is going to be. Another part of situational awareness, I have here a casualty dosimeter sticker, and this one is old, so it's not usable, and you can tell that because this field here, this sensitive film, has had enough radiation pass through it that it's darkened. but I got a kind of a larger, better version of this that I carry in my go bag. That's a radiation monitor and alarm, which can actually alert you. With these, you'd have to look at your casualty dosimeter, either a sticker or a card. They make them about the size of a credit card, and you could tell how much radiation you had taken in a nuclear scenario. You can't see or smell or feel the radiation, so by knowing what dose you're taking, that can help you move to a safer area, or put more material between you and the fallout, or tell you need to find a better area or you're not going to last long. My grandfather was a physician in the nuclear program, and from what he explained to me from treating people who had been exposed to radiation from nuclear weapons, it's not a way you want to go. So you know, that's one more option. Doesn't take up a lot of space that you could include in a pocket survival kit, or something even better in a go bag. And again, I'd include that, I'd lump it in under situational awareness, to be aware of taking that radiation. Moving along, we can move on to escape. The main thing I want to get across with escape, restraint, and I'm talking specifically about restraint escape here. I'm not talking so much about the evasion phase, but escaping restraints and getting free. If you pack restraint escape gear into a little wallet, or carry it in your wallet, it's going to be one of the very first things that's going to be taken from you as soon as you're captured. They're going to take your weapon, your phone, and your wallet. They're going to want to know who you are. So why these companies put so-called escape kits in wallets is absolutely beyond me. You want to carry that equipment in a way that it either won't be found or can be hidden. I did a separate video on concealment tubes, and this one here I have I put this elastic on it with a glass break, basically similar to Oscar Delta's GTFO tool. You know, you stretch it and use that to hit the glass, and this carbide wheel used to strike a lighter will fracture that glass because of the hardness. But it can also be used to hang your concealment tube from your trouser button. So if you hadn't hidden it deeper, at least it's hidden underneath your clothing if you were captured and didn't see it coming. So I did a whole video on contents of these, and so you can check that out if you like. Another way to carry it, this is an escape necklace, and I will do another whole video on this because it's just that important. This particular design I've used very successfully. I've handed it right to people, law enforcement and security, searching me too many times a count, and nobody's ever given a second glance. They just hand it right back to me and send me on through the metal detector. But I'll explain everything that's in there, and I have my most basic survival tools, and probably the nucleus of my core layer is my necklace, I would say. And I'm putting these things on paper or moleskin so they won't make noise in the microphone as I move them around the desk. So with these Restraint Escape tools, be sure that you don't pack it in a wallet or a kit that's easily going to be found on your person in even a cursory pat down. The big bundles of gear, they're just too easy to find. And I would suggest, instead of carrying a bunch of tools like this that looks like a little miniature locksmith set in your pocket survival kit, that maybe you consider just carrying the materials to make the tools you need. And this is a diamond cutoff disc from like a rotary tool, and it's very useful for creating different tools out of metal. Here I have just a standard hair clip, and next to it I have a tool that I made from a hair clip. On one end it's a handcuff shim, and the other end it's a decoder tool. If I left more material on there, it could be used as a knife tool, but it can be quickly fashioned into an escape tool. You can see this is that part of the hair clip right there. These are just bobby pins. Bobby pins can be made into any number of lock or restraint escape tools. This one, I have kind of a snake rake on one end and a medium hook that functions almost like a hybrid hook on the other end. These obviously were roller pins that were used. This one was obviously used to tension a padlock. This one was bent into a tension tool. And they can be bent either with pliers in your kit, or if you don't have that, like if you just stuck these in your clothing, like in the band of your underwear or something, underneath layers of clothing before you were captured, you could bend them using a door hinge or a crack in the cement, a seam in the cement. They're very easy, or just your fingers, and you can work them into the shape you need with just rubbing them on concrete or using something like this. This is just a mini binder clip that can be used as a money clip or pocket litter, but this part here can open handcuffs, especially if you shorten these a little bit, and reduce the diameter just a little bit, they'll fit right in and pop open handcuffs just about like a key. Or some of the kits, especially military kits, will carry standard handcuff keys, or these that are designed to be sewn under a button, or to appear like a coin if they just in a pat down. It doesn't feel like a key format. Or you can create your own keys. I won't go into a lot of detail on that because I did a video on handcuff keys and shims, but that's some options for escape. I would recommend carrying the resources to make the tools you need, as opposed to carrying things that look like tools. Like here's a hair clip. If you're going to go to a hacker convention, that'd be a great thing to wear. Or if you're going to go red team pen test some corporate client, they're not going to notice that. But if your life's on the line and they're going to start mailing pieces of you, you wouldn't want to be caught with something like that. You don't, but something like this would go unnoticed. Okay, one last couple things on escape before this video gets too long. This is OC powder. Could be used in a straw as a distraction, or it can be used for dogs. There are kind of conflicting tests that I've researched, experiments with OC powder and dogs, but most of them just use pepper spray sprayed on the ground, not the actual powder, which can be inhaled by the dog. And some of those tests suggest that it didn't work too great, and others suggest that it did work. But I would go with the powder. I had a can of military grade OC powder from past work at a contractor building less lethal munitions. But you can just buy the powder online. It's an option to put a little bit in a small vial. If it was well placed, it could slow down a dog. The conventional wisdom, though, is to defeat the handler, not the dog, because it's a lot easier to make the handler get off track or give up than the dog. Another technique you can use is carrying a little USB drive. This one will work with phones and computers. You could put Tails on there, Tails Linux on there, and so machines can boot and configure it to fire off an SOS as soon as they plug it in. So if you were captured and they wanted to see what was on there, it could alert an email address of your choosing as to your location, which could help you be recovered or assist in your escape. It's an option, and you can also carry things like information, pins, and cell phone SIMs. It may be easier to get a hold of a cell phone, but you may have to make it work. You'll need a prepaid plan and likely a SIM to make it work. From the research and interviews I've conducted, it's something I would include. So a little bit about security, situational awareness, and escape items that will fit in a pocket survival kit. There's a lot that won't, but I hope that helps, and thanks for watching.